The notification sound woke me at 3:47 inches the morning. Not a phone call, not a text message. It was the security app on my tablet. The one my neighbor's grandson helped me install 2 weeks ago when I started suspecting something was wrong. Motion detected. Master bedroom. I was not in my master bedroom. I had been sleeping in the guest room downstairs for 3 nights because I could not shake the feeling that someone had been inside my house while I was out. And now, staring at the grainy live feed on that small screen, I watched a figure move through my bedroom in the dark, opening drawers, going through my desk, pulling out folders. The figure turned toward the hidden camera, and the infrared light caught his face clearly. It was my son, my firstborn, standing in my bedroom at nearly 4 in the morning, wearing black gloves, rifling through my personal documents like a common burglar. I did not move. I did not call the police. I sat on that guest bed and watched him for 11 minutes, until he found what he was looking for, tucked it inside his jacket, and left through the back door he still had a key to. Then I closed the app, set the tablet on the nightstand, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. My name is Harold Beckett. I am 67 years old. I was born in Gary, Indiana, back when the steel mills still ran 3 shifts, and every man in town had grease under his fingernails and a purpose in his bones. My father worked the furnace for 31 years. My mother cleaned houses for families on the nice side of town. They gave me 2 things worth having: a work ethic that does not quit, and the belief that a man's word is his bond. I left Gary at 19 with $400 and a rusted Ford pickup, drove to Columbus, Ohio, because a buddy told me there was construction work there. He was right. I spent 5 years pouring concrete, framing houses, and learning every trade I could get my hands on: electrical, plumbing, roofing. I was not the smartest guy on the job site, but I was always the last one to leave. By the time I was 28, I had my contractor's license. By 32, I had my own company, Beckett Construction. Started with residential remodels, kitchens and bathrooms mostly, then moved into commercial projects, office buildings, strip malls, medical facilities. I built that company the way my father built everything, one honest day at a time. No shortcuts. No games. Every contract delivered on time or early. Every handshake honored. By the time I turned 50, Beckett Construction had 200 employees and projects in 3 states. Not a Fortune 500 company. Not glamorous, but solid. Dependable. Mine. I married my wife, Diane, when I was 26. She was a school teacher with a laugh that could fill an empty room and make it feel like home. She gave me 2 sons. My oldest, Craig, came first, then Mitchell 2 years later. We raised them in a 4-bedroom house in Westerville that I built myself. Every nail, every board, Sunday dinners, Little League games, camping trips, the whole picture. Diane made sure those boys had everything. Not everything money could buy, but everything that mattered. Manners, respect, the understanding that nothing in this world is free. Diane passed away 4 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 7 weeks from diagnosis to funeral. 7 weeks to say goodbye to the woman who had been my anchor for 37 years. I will not pretend I handled it well. There were months where I barely left the house. Months where I sat in her reading chair and talked to her as if she could still hear me. But eventually, I got up. I went back to work. Because that is what Diane would have expected. That is what Diane would have demanded. And that is when things started to change. Not overnight, not in some dramatic explosion. It was slow, like water seeping into a foundation crack. You do not notice it until the whole wall starts to lean. Craig, my oldest, had been working at the company for 10 years. I had made him vice president of operations 3 years before Diane died. He was competent enough, good with clients, decent at managing crews, but he lacked something I could never quite name: a hunger, a fire. He did the work, but he never loved it. He showed up because the paycheck was good and the title was impressive at dinner parties, not because he felt the same pride I felt when I stood in front of a finished building and knew my hands had made it real. Mitchell was different. He never wanted any part of the business. He became a high school history teacher, just like his mother, made a third of what Craig made, and seemed 10 times happier. I respected that. I respected him for finding his own path. After Diane died, Craig started pushing. Small things at first. Suggestions about modernizing the company. Ideas about expanding into markets I did not trust. Proposals for partnerships with developers I had never heard of. I listened. I always listened. But when I disagreed, something shifted behind his eyes. Something cold. He married a woman named Vanessa 6 years ago. Beautiful, polished, always dressed like she was walking into a courtroom even when she was just picking up groceries. She worked in real estate, high-end properties, and from the day I met her, every conversation somehow circled back to money. How much things cost, how much things were worth, how much things could be sold for. Diane never liked her. She told me once, "That woman looks at our family and sees a balance sheet." I told her she was being too hard on Vanessa. Another mistake in a growing list of them. The first real warning sign came 8 months ago. I had been going through some routine paperwork at the office when I noticed an invoice from a consulting firm I had never heard of. Meridian Strategic Partners. $45,000 for advisory services. I asked Craig about it. He waved it off. Just a firm Vanessa recommended. They are helping us evaluate some new market opportunities. I let it go. I should not have. 2 weeks later, there was another invoice. $38,000. Same firm. Different description. Then another. 5,10,000,000. Over the next month, I quietly pulled every invoice connected to Meridian Strategic Partners. The total was $310,000 in 7 months. I called the phone number listed on the invoices. It was disconnected. I looked up the company registration. It had been incorporated 11 months ago. The registered agent was a law office in Delaware, the kind of law office that exists solely to hide who actually owns things. I hired a forensic accountant, not someone from my network. Someone completely outside, someone Craig would never know about. Her name was Ruth Pembroke, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who had spent 20 years investigating financial fraud for the FBI before going private. What she found made me sick. Meridian Strategic Partners was a shell company. It had no employees, no office, no actual services. The bank account it operated through was controlled by a trust, and that trust was managed by a familiar name. Vanessa's brother, a man named Derek, who I had met exactly twice at family barbecues and who had said maybe 15 words to me total. The money Craig was funneling through that fake company was going directly into accounts controlled by Vanessa's family. $310,000 of my company's money. But that was not the worst part. Ruth kept digging. She found emails. Emails between Craig, Vanessa, and a lawyer I had never heard of, discussing something that turned my blood to ice, a conservatorship petition. They were building a case to have me declared mentally unfit. The emails laid it out like a business plan. Step 1. Document instances of forgetfulness, confusion, or erratic behavior. Step 2. Obtain medical opinions supporting cognitive decline. Step 3. File for conservatorship in probate court. Step 4. Once granted legal control, restructure the company, sell key assets, and liquidate. Craig had been keeping notes, dates, and descriptions. February 14. Dad forgot the name of the project manager on the Hilltop job. March 3. Dad asked the same question twice in a meeting. March 19. Dad got lost driving to the Riverside site. Had to call for directions. Some of them were real. I did forget that project manager's name. I did ask that question twice. And I did take a wrong turn on the way to Riverside because they had changed the road layout. None of it meant I was losing my mind. It meant I was 67 years old and occasionally human. But written down in a neat list with dates and clinical language, it could look like something else entirely. It could look like a man falling apart. That is when I understood what the break-in was about. The night I watched Craig on camera going through my bedroom desk, he was looking for my medical records, my prescription bottles, anything he could use to paint a picture of decline. He found a folder with my recent blood work and a note from my doctor about monitoring my cholesterol. Routine stuff. But in the wrong hands, with the right spin, even routine stuff becomes ammunition. I did not confront him. Not yet. I learned that from 50 years in construction. You do not tear down a wall until you know what is holding it up. You plan. You measure twice. You make sure when you swing, you do not miss. I called my brother Frank in Indianapolis. Frank is 71, retired electrician, built like a fire plug, and the only person on this earth I trust completely. I told him everything. He drove to Columbus the next morning. "Harold," he said, sitting in my kitchen with a cup of black coffee, "you need a lawyer. Not a business lawyer. A war lawyer. I already have one. Ruth recommended someone." "Good. What else?" "I need witnesses. People who can confirm I am not losing my mind." "You have me. I need more." So I made calls. My doctor, who gave me a full cognitive evaluation and declared me sharp as a tack. My pastor, who I had known for 30 years, 2 longtime employees who had worked with me daily and could testify to my competence. And Mitchell, my younger son. Mitchell came to my house on a Saturday afternoon. He looked uncomfortable, like he already knew something was wrong. I told him. I showed him the invoices, the shell company records, the emails about the conservatorship. He sat there for a long time without speaking. Then he said, "I knew something was off. Vanessa kept asking me questions about you, about your memory, about whether you seemed confused or forgetful. She said she was worried about you. I thought she was being caring. I should have seen it. It is not your fault," I told him. "They fooled me too. What are you going to do?" "What I have to." The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. I restructured my estate, created an irrevocable trust, moved the majority shares of Beckett Construction into it, with an independent board of trustees that included Ruth, my lawyer, and 2 respected business leaders from the Columbus community. I changed my will. I revoked every power of attorney I had ever signed. I changed all the locks on my house and installed a proper security system. Not just the 1 camera, but a full setup. 16 cameras, motion sensors, and a direct line to a private security firm. And I kept going to work every day, kept smiling at Craig across the conference table, kept pretending I did not know that my own son was counting the days until he could erase me. There were moments when the pretending nearly broke me. One afternoon, Craig brought his daughter, my granddaughter Lily, to the office. She was 7, with her mother's dark hair and my wife's smile. She ran to me and threw her arms around my neck. "Grandpa," she said, "Daddy says you might come live with us soon. Is that true?" I looked at Craig over her head. He would not meet my eyes. "We will see, sweetheart," I said. "We will see." That night, I sat in Diane's reading chair and cried for the first time since her funeral. Not because I was sad, because I was furious. They were already telling my granddaughter that Grandpa was moving in, meaning Grandpa could not live alone anymore, meaning Grandpa needed to be taken care of, meaning Grandpa was no longer capable of being Grandpa. They were rehearsing the narrative, getting everyone used to the idea before the legal papers were even filed. I chose a Monday morning for the confrontation. Not at home, not in private, at the office, in the main conference room, in front of every person who needed to see what was about to happen. I arrived at 7. Craig usually rolled in around 9:30. By 9, the room was ready. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Callahan, who had won conservatorship battles against some of the wealthiest families in Ohio. Ruth Pembroke, with 3 binders of financial evidence. Frank, sitting in the corner with his arms crossed and a face like a clenched fist. 2 of my most senior employees, people who had been with me for over 20 years, and Mitchell, who had driven up from Dayton at 5 in the morning to be there. Craig walked in at 9:42. He froze when he saw the room. "What is this?" he said. "Sit down, Craig," I said. He did not sit. He scanned the faces. Mitchell, Frank, Ruth, the lawyer. "What the hell is going on?" "What is going on?" Patricia said, opening her briefcase. is that we are here to discuss the $310,000 your client funneled through a fraudulent shell company called Meridian Strategic Partners. Craig went white. That is a legitimate consulting firm. It is a post office box in Delaware, controlled by your wife's brother, Ruth said. We have the bank records, the incorporation documents, and the transfer history. Every dollar traced from Beckett Construction's operating account to accounts controlled by your wife's family. Craig's eyes darted to me. Dad, this is a misunderstanding. There is no misunderstanding, I said. I also know about the conservatorship. The room got very quiet. Craig's jaw tightened. Who told you? Nobody told me. I found the emails. I know about the notes you have been keeping about my so-called mental decline. I know about the doctors Vanessa has been shopping for. I know about the plan to have me declared unfit, take control of the company and sell it off. I can explain. You broke into my house, Craig. I watched you on camera. At 4 a.m, wearing gloves, going through my desk. My own son. In my own house. Like a thief, because that is what you are. Craig sat down. Not because I told him to, because his legs gave out. For a long moment, nobody spoke. I could hear the clock on the wall. I could hear Frank breathing through his nose the way he does when he is trying to keep himself from saying something he should not. Then Craig did something I did not expect. He started crying. Not the kind of crying you do for sympathy. The ugly kind. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and broken. Dad, he said through the tears, you do not understand. Vanessa. I said enough. I do not want to hear about Vanessa. You are a grown man. You made your choices, and now there are consequences. Patricia outlined the situation. The fraud charges I could file. The automatic exclusion from my estate under the new trust. The restraining order we were prepared to seek. The notification to the state bar regarding Vanessa's brother's involvement in what constituted elder financial abuse. Craig listened to all of it with his head in his hands. When Patricia finished, I spoke again. I am not going to file criminal charges, I said. What? Frank said from the corner. Not yet, I clarified. Craig, you are going to repay every dollar. You are going to resign from this company today. You are going to sign a document acknowledging what you did. And you and Vanessa are going to stay away from me until I decide otherwise. And if I refuse, then Patricia files everything with the prosecutor's office this afternoon. And it will not be me pressing charges. It will be the company, the board, on behalf of every employee whose profit sharing you stole from. He looked at Mitchell. You knew about this? Mitchell nodded. And you are okay with destroying our family? I am not the one who destroyed it, Mitchell said quietly. That was the thing that broke the room open. Craig stood up so fast his chair slammed into the wall. He pointed at me. You always loved him more. Always. The golden boy. The teacher. The one who was just like Mom. I gave you everything, Craig, and you know it. You gave me a job. You gave me a title. But you never gave me respect. I made you vice president because you needed someone to run things while you played God. I cannot have this conversation right now, I said. And I could not, because part of what he said had truth in it. And truth delivered in anger is the hardest kind to face. Craig left. He did not slam the door. He just walked out, and somehow that was worse. Silence is heavier than noise. The weeks that followed were ugly. Vanessa hired a lawyer and fired back. She claimed I was retaliating against Craig because of a business disagreement. She said the consulting fees were legitimate. She said my behavior proved exactly what they had been worried about. An elderly man becoming paranoid and punishing his children for caring about him. The local news picked it up. Construction mogul, accused of family power struggle. I stopped reading the articles after the third one called me a controlling patriarch who could not let go. But the evidence held. Ruth's documentation was airtight. The shell company, the transfers, the emails. When Vanessa's lawyer saw the full file in the discovery process, the tone changed fast. Settlement talks began. While the lawyers negotiated, something happened that changed everything. It was a Tuesday night. Mitchell called me at 11, which he never does. Dad, he said, and his voice was strange. Craig is at my house. He showed up an hour ago. He is drunk, and he is talking crazy. What kind of crazy? He keeps saying it is all over, that Vanessa left him, that she took Lily. He keeps saying he has nothing left. My stomach dropped. Is he safe? I do not know. He locked himself in my bathroom, and he will not come out. I am on my way. I drove 45 minutes to Dayton in the dark, doing 90 on the highway, my hands shaking on the wheel. When I got to Mitchell's house, the bathroom door was still locked. Craig, I said through the door, it is Dad. Go away. I am not going anywhere. Why not? You went away my whole childhood. The words hit me like a fist, but I stayed. I put my back against that door and slid down to the floor. When you were 9, I said, you fell off your bike in the driveway and broke your collarbone. I carried you to the car. You were crying so hard you could barely breathe. And I told you, I am right here. I am not going anywhere. You remember that? Silence. I am right here, Craig. I am not going anywhere. More silence. Then the lock clicked. The door opened. My son was sitting on the tile floor with red eyes and an empty look that terrified me. She took Lily, he whispered. Vanessa took my daughter and went to her mother's in Virginia. She said I was a liability, that I ruined the plan, that I was weak. I sat down next to him on that bathroom floor. 2 grown men on cold tile at midnight. I should have told you, he said. I should have come to you when she first started talking about it. But I was angry, Dad. I have been angry at you for a long time. For what? For never being enough. For working my whole life to impress you and never feeling like I did. For watching you build that company and knowing I could never build anything that good. That is not true. It is true. And you know it. Mitchell is just like Mom. Everybody loves him. He is kind and patient, and everything comes easy for him. I am like you, Dad. I am stubborn and proud, and I work myself into the ground. But when I look in the mirror, I do not see the man you are. I see a shadow of him, and that made me angry enough to do something terrible. I put my arm around my son for the first time in years. I should have seen it, I said. I should have seen that you were hurting. You were busy building an empire. I was busy losing my son. We sat there for a long time without talking. Mitchell brought us coffee and sat in the hallway, close enough to hear, far enough to give us space. That night did not fix anything. You do not repair decades of damage in one conversation on a bathroom floor, but it cracked something open, something that had been sealed shut for too long. Over the following months, things settled into something resembling order. Craig repaid the money in installments, selling the condo Vanessa had pushed him to buy, selling the car he could not afford, downsizing his life to match his actual means. He started seeing a therapist. I started seeing one too, because my brother Frank told me if I did not deal with my own part in this mess, I was going to carry it to my grave. The legal matters resolved quietly. No criminal charges. A binding settlement. Craig permanently excluded from the company but with a path to rebuild his life. Vanessa filed for divorce from her end. Craig did not fight it, but he fought like hell for custody of Lily. That fight is still going on. The company recovered. I promoted 3 longtime employees into leadership positions and began a formal succession plan, something I should have done years ago. Mitchell did not want the business, and I finally stopped hoping he would change his mind. Instead, I found 2 young project managers who reminded me of myself at 30, hungry, honest, and willing to work until their hands bled. I gave them a shot. They have not let me down. Sam, Craig's son from his first marriage, a quiet kid of 19 who had watched all of this unfold from a distance, came to see me one Sunday. He sat in my kitchen and asked me the same question my brother had asked me months earlier. What are you going to do? I told him I was going to keep building. That is all I have ever known how to do. Can I learn? He asked. I looked at him. This kid who had every reason to walk away from this family and never look back. Why would you want to? Because somebody has to prove that being a Beckett means something good. He started the following Monday, sweeping floors at one of our job sites. He did not complain once. Craig and I talk now. Not often. Not easily. Mostly short phone calls where we say very little but mean every word. Last week he called and said, "Dad, I am sorry. Not for the money, for all of it." "I know," I said. "I am sorry too." "For what?" "For not being the father you needed. That is not." Let me finish. I built a company. I am proud of that. But somewhere along the way, I confused building a company with building a family, and they are not the same thing. Your mother knew that. She tried to tell me. I should have listened. He was quiet for a moment. "Are we going to be okay?" "I do not know," I said, "but I think we are going to try. And trying is more than we have done in a long time." Last Sunday, Frank came over for dinner. We sat on the back porch with 2 beers and watched the sun go down over the yard Diane used to tend. "You look different," he said. "Different how?" "Lighter. Like you put something down you had been carrying for a long time." I thought about that. "Maybe I did," I said. "You know what Diane would say if she were here?" I smiled. She would say, "It took you long enough, Harold." He laughed. She would be right. She was always right. The truth is, I do not know how this story ends. Craig and I are still finding our way. Lily is growing up in Virginia, and every day she is not here is a day I feel in my chest. The company is strong, but I am 67, and the body does not lie about time the way the mind sometimes does. But I know this. I know that when my son broke into my house at 4 in the morning, he was not just stealing documents. He was stealing my dignity, my right to be treated as a man, not a problem to be managed, my right to decide my own life. And when I sat in that conference room and laid the truth on the table, I was not just protecting my money or my company. I was protecting something that does not have a price tag. The right to look at myself in the mirror and know that I did not let fear or love or guilt turn me into someone's victim. If you are listening to this and you are old like me, or getting there, I want you to hear something. Your age does not make you less. Your gray hair does not make you weak. Your slower step does not make you irrelevant. And if someone, anyone, even your own blood, tries to convince you that you are too old to matter, too confused to decide, too fragile to fight, you look them in the eye and you prove them wrong, not with anger, not with revenge, with the quiet, unshakable certainty that you have earned your place in this world and nobody gets to take it from you. Not your children, not their lawyers, not some document filed in some courthouse. Nobody. My name is Harold Beckett. I am 67 years old. I built something real, with my own 2 hands. I almost lost it to the people I loved most. And I am still here, still standing, still building. That is not stubbornness. That is dignity. And it is mine. It is earned. And I will never let it go.